I still remember the wretched state of these plants when we first came here. How diligently you have worked all these years to produce such an incredible amount of fruit." She tucked her arm in his, steering them toward the house. "I'm so glad to be home to celebrate this harvest with you," she said. This was the most anticipated season in the vineyard, and she didn't want to miss any of it. She could hardly wait. The young woman in our story has for many years observed the tending of her father's vineyard. She's well acquainted with all that is required to produce a harvest, and she knows how much a great harvest of prize-winning grapes will mean to her father. You, on the other hand, may never have walked through a vineyard or even seen grapes hanging from a branch. For that reason, in the chapters to come, we'll revisit our young friend and her father as the grape harvest approaches. I want you to feel the sun, smell the earth, and touch the rough leaves of the grape plant. I want you to celebrate with them as they anticipate a bumper crop. Why should you think about grapes? Because the truths I want to explore with you in this little book, based on the teaching of Jesus in John 15, have a lot to do with grapes and how they grow. The vineyard we're interested in is a spiritual picture rather than an actual place. But I promise that the lessons you learn there will be so real to you that they will change your life forever. I can make such a promise because our teacher is Jesus, and his words are part of his last conversation with his friends on the night before he died. What he said surprised his disciples. I'm sure it wasn't what they wanted to hear, but Jesus knew it was what they desperately needed to hear. Otherwise, they would never experience the abundant life God had in mind for them. Abundance. A life as full as possible of God's best. It's the picture God has in mind for us, too. Unfortunately, if we don't understand what God does to bring that wonderful harvest about, we can actually work against his good hand in our lives without even knowing it. By the time we finish the reading of this book, some important principles of how abundance happens in your life will become clear, and you'll learn how to cooperate with your Father's hand for your greatest fulfillment and for his glory. For example, you'll discover how he intervenes when sin is holding you back. You'll understand how he responds when your own good intentions are leading you astray. And you'll learn, perhaps for the first time, just how much he longs to enjoy intimate fellowship with you, and you'll have a clear idea of what you need to do to make that relationship happen. And finally, you'll know for certain that you can expect more lasting results from your life than you ever thought possible. Listen in now as Jesus talks quietly with his friends over dinner. Dinner Revelations. It's the night of the Passover. Jesus and his inner circle of followers are eating together in the upper room. They have much to celebrate. The events leading up to this meal have confirmed to the disciples that Jesus is the long-awaited Messiah. They're convinced that by tomorrow, if not before, Jesus will give the word and usher in his new kingdom. And it's a kingdom they can't wait to be part of. The atmosphere is electric. But then Jesus makes a string of disturbing announcements. One of the disciples will betray him. One will deny him. He is leaving, and they can't follow. And the final shattering disclosure that the ruler of this world is coming, and it will not be him. The men are speechless. Just moments ago, they were poised for a great future. Now Jesus seems to be saying that it'll never happen. All their dreams and plans have turned into a crushing disappointment. At the end of the evening, Jesus says, "Arise, let us go from here." As he leads them out into the night, questions and doubts swirl in their minds. By the light of lamps and torches, they follow him quietly through the winding streets of Jerusalem, down to a lower gate of the city and out into the Kidron Valley. Here they walk through ancient vineyards, carefully tended for generations and famously productive. Jesus and his followers find their way through the rows of vines on their way to their destination, the Garden of Gethsemane on a nearby hill. It is in this very vineyard, many scholars believe, that Jesus paused to deliver his parting message to his disciples. And here, as he so often did, Jesus used an earthy, familiar illustration to impart timeless spiritual truths. Before, he had talked about water, lambs, coins, runaway sons, and bread. This time, Jesus talked about fruit. "I am the vine, you are the branches," he said in John 15:5.